guys, it's me, Dr. Belinda George here. Sorry about missing last Tuesday. I wasn't feeling well, so I apologize for that. But I'm back. And we're finishing up or towards the end of Dallas Tales by Gayle Jones. Dallas is a dog that goes to Camp Meatloaf, and she is a local author here in Beaumont, Texas. So congratulations, Gail, on this book. I know I've told you that before, but it seems like we haven't seen each other in a while. She'll be jumping on shortly, guys, but I'm so glad to be back. Hi, Genesis. How are you? So, Dallas Tales. And when she jumps on, I'll put her in the where you guys can ask her questions if you have any. So, we're on chapter 21. And last time we read, Coyotes in the Campfire. They came together. It wasn't a big deal, but they did meet in middle ground, I guess, meet at middle ground. Mike, hello, Dr. George. I'm at the airport waiting for my flight back home. Be careful, Mike, and enjoy. It's great flying at night. A love story, chapter 21. Foxy became our adopted cousin over the summer, and the gang received the Fox Terror as one of their own. Bear is especially fond of Foxy and let him know early in the summer that he would watch out for him. No need to worry. Hold on one second. When you get up, I didn't mean to call. Doing several things here. Let's see. Okay. I'm sending it over to her in just a second. So, guys, let me give her a little time to come in. And hi, Ava, Ari, and Pop Pop. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, we're in the middle of that love story. And while I'm getting Gail to come in, I'm sending her the link. I was a little late today. Okay, let me send this to her. How have you guys been? Let me ask you that while I'm getting this set up for her. Let's see. Thank you for being patient. All right, got it. Just 1 second, Gail. I'm going to have it for you. And you should be getting it shortly. All right. And it is sent. And perfect. There we go. All right. It's a love story. Let me start back over, guys. Foxy became our adopted cousin over the summer, and the gang received the Fox Terror as one of their own. Bear is especially fond of Foxy and let him know early in the summer that he would watch out for him. No need to worry, but the Fab 14 are still struggling at Camp Meatloaf and wishing they were at Camp Ritzy Bitsy getting their nails done. In fact, after breakfast this morning, Poodle Puff and her friends were sulking under some nearby trees and planned to stay there the whole day doing nothing. Doing well. We are happy to see that you are feeling better. Thanks, Pop Pop. It was a little tough. I'm glad to be back on this side reading. So love that. Thank you for the comment. I decided to invite them to join us on a hiking adventure, and they reluctantly agreed. I was not surprised because what else are they to do? They've hardly explored the camp and have no clue about finding snacks between our square meals at Ruskrat Lodge. Willow and Hank, however, are a different story. Those two Catahoula hound dogs can jump. Let me let Gail in. Hi, Gail.
Hey there.
Hey, I'm reading starting chapter 21, and then I'll stop and ask you some questions.
Okay, I got to get my book.
Okay, Gail's going to get her book, and I'm going to read. I love that. This is, those of you that are watching, this is us. And if you ever do any kind of podcast or anything, just be yourself. People appreciate it more, right, Gail?
That's right.
They've hardly explored the camp and have no clue about finding snacks between our square meals at Muskrat Lodge. Willow and Hank, however, are a different story. Those two Catahoula hound dogs can jump, climb, or whatever is needed to raid for snacks when we go on our hikes. I sent them on a mission this morning, and when they return, I had to laugh when I saw their white plastic shopping bags looped over their heads for transporting the goodies. The bags looked like parachutes blowing in the wind behind them as they happily trotted toward us. For today's hike, I assigned all the cousins the same three dogs they started out with when camp started. Hank has the pleasure of having Poodle Puff under his watch. I think he's up to the task because Hank is used to the whims of girl pups after 2 years of living with Willow, who can be a handful at times. He can surely handle Poodle Puff. All right, troops, I called to everyone. Hank and Willow have secured our lunch, so we are ready to head out. I told the Fab 14 members to pay attention to the dogs in command over them. It's very important to stay together for our own safety. As we've seen all summer, there's coyotes, hogs, hawks, and other varmints in these woods. As long as we stay out of their way, we'll be just fine. At the thought of coyotes, Poodle Puff fainted straight away. I can't believe it. Can't I bark? Get your pup on her feet and see if she is okay. Hank dutifully trotted over and nudged Poodle to eat to regain her strength. So he advanced her a few chicken nuggets from his plastic bag of treats. In a very unladylike manner, she gobbled the nuggets and seemed to revive very quickly. She sounds like me when I eat. I do the same thing. Hank seemed a bit partial to Miss Poodle Puff. I headed to the front of the dog convoy for our hike, leaving Bear to bring up the rear. So far, I've been camp chairman twice, followed by Felix and Bear, who took turns serving several weeks each. It's back to my turn now, so I decided we trek up the rim of Inks Lake. It's a beautiful day, and we're able to see the kids playing down at the lake. As we hiked, my mind wandered to the end of summer. There was no way I was going back home on the crazy Camp Meatloaf bus, but I still hadn't reminded Mama to pick me up herself. Well, that would wait. Right now, I had a huge convoy to lead. After climbing for an hour, I gave the command to stop by a beautiful spring-fed pond where we would drink and wait a bit to cool off. Since the pups were ready for a break, they all got busy lapping the cool water. Foxy took a big gulp, but Poodle Puff was determined not to stoop to drinking from an icky pond. She was thirsty, however. After watching the members of the Fab 14 drink, she was just about to give in to the idea when Hank playfully splashed water all over Poodle Puff's head. Oops, there goes those cute Celadon bowls. Oh, that's the blue ones. Oh, that's not good. I thought to myself, Poodle Puff was drenched. At first, she ran away mortified, but then Hank followed her and nuzzled her ears. I couldn't believe my eyes. Was Hank flirting? She ducked her head for a second, and then, merciful heavens, she broke into a trot and jumped right into the pond. Hank went in after her, and the splashing war began. In jumped Willow and all the rest of the convoy. All the pups were soaking wet and smiling when they came out. After playing for a good while, we all moved to a wonderful grassy meadow under some trees. Hank and Willow distributed lunch to everyone, and I was pretty sure Miss Poodle Puff got a few extra snacks. But I thought she couldn't lower herself to eat scraps. Wait a minute. I think I might see a love story developing here. I wonder, has old Hank done gone and got himself a girlfriend? Well, at least Poodle Puff's attitude seems a lot better now. I say, whatever it takes. We're all having such a great time up on the rim of Inks Lake that we decided to camp overnight there. Thank goodness Hank and Willow brought enough food to last until the next morning. We always know it's a possibility that we might spend the night on the hillside because we've done that many times this summer. But tonight would be like no other night so far. So, Gayle, tell me a love story between dogs.
Yes.
You slid it in there just perfectly.
Yeah, Miss Poodle Puff was such a little rascal. And so old Hank showed up and saved the day. A little love heals all things. Don't ever forget that.
And that's absolutely right. And I love that he nuzzled her ear and then she jumped. Oh, so sweet. Yeah. I need this in a movie.
I want it to be really bad.
Oh, no. It would be a perfect movie.
I think it would too.
So we have the next chapter, Rat Meatballs. Please, would you like to read that chapter, Gayle?
Sure, I'd love to.
And maybe you'll tell us the recipe in case anybody's wondering how to make rat meatloaf.
Well, absolutely. We made a big campfire and roasted marshmallows for dinner. Hank had managed to snag more pieces of rat meatloaf. Rat meatloaf for 21, please. That's a tall order, so we actually broke up the meatloaf into tiny meatballs that we could pop into our mouths. The Fab 14 raved over those things, but I'm not sure they knew it was rat meat. Oh well, we can share the secret ingredients another day. You should have seen the faces of the Fab 14 and little Foxy when Felix told scary stories later that night. Their eyes were as big as saucers. Who would have thought earlier in the summer that things would have turned out so great by the end? Managing all these dogs on a campout is a feat I would have never dreamed possible. But I've learned that if you put in the effort and try your hardest, you can achieve things you never dreamed possible. I have Mama to thank for that lesson in life. Ever since I came to live with Mama, she's told me to dream big, work hard, be nice to people, treat everyone fairly, and respect others. Oh, yes. And she would add to that list, always tell the truth, do the right thing, and reach out to others when they need help. I saw Hank and Poodlepuff sitting together looking at the stars tonight. Just look what happened when that sly dog Hank reached out to her. It turned the whole day around. What could have been a miserable couple of hours has turned out to be one of our greatest campouts ever, and all because of love. Love is treating people like you treat yourself. Like Mama says, I'm going to try every day to go out there in the big world, be happy, and help others to be happy. There isn't a lot of camp left, but my other cousins are supposed to arrive late tomorrow at Camp Meatloaf. Floppy Joe, the Golden Retriever, and Texas Tito Jones, a French bulldog, will spend the rest of the summer with us. It's always fun when new join us. We like to tease and sometimes play tricks on them, like telling scary stories and things like that. After all, isn't that what cousins do? Of course they do. We'd spend what was left of summer having a blast. That's how I thought their arrival at Camp Meatloaf would go anyway. Boy, was I wrong.
I love it. So here we go again with the uh-oh,
Uh-huh.
what's going to happen?
Yes.
But Lucky Nine,
Yep.
chapter 23.
Yep.
Let's see. The next day, we were waiting at camp for Floppy Joe. And every time I read that, I think about Sloppy Joe. And if
Oh.
you haven't, let me tell you this neat fact. Those that are listening and will listen. To make your spaghetti, use a can of manwich.
Oh.
And oh, it has a little sweet, bold taste.
Uh-huh.
So good. Just thought I'd tell you all that. Manwich substituted for tomato sauce.
Oh, wow.
It's the best.
Good.
Yes. Oh, and cheese. I'm sure that's not in rat meatloaf, but
Well,
sprinkle
who knows?
cheese on it.
Yeah.
Well, not so little. He has the longest legs and somewhat resembles a giraffe. I love him, except when he barks directly into my ear. Ouchie, he'll learn. Floppy has a red coat and gets all wet when he swims. Sometimes he loves to do something he loves to do. I don't know where I don't know how we're going to keep him out of Inks Lake. Tito, is also a lot of fun. I'm going to get that name confused the next few weeks. I just know it since I love Fritos. My mom sneaks me a few all the time. Maybe the dining hall will be serving them today. Jones, that's a hard one, is the tiniest of the cousins, and I've started thinking of ourselves as the lucky nine. If we don't count Lacey the cat not being a dog and all, I think they at least they realize she's not a dog, but they're willing to include her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Pop said, not in my house. It's scratch or nothing. Oh, my goodness. So no manwich for him. So let's get this party started. We needed to vote a new camp chairman into office this week. We were open for suggestions, but everyone at once suggested it should be Felix again. So Felix it was. Felix is our quiet giant because he is so unassuming, kind, and gentle. Since he's been to camp so many times, he's helped tremendously when we found ourselves in trouble on more than one occasion. So, Felix, where should we have our campfire tonight? Willow asked. Follow me, Felix replied as he raced like the wind toward Snaggletooth Rock. Where are we going? Wait for me, shouted Tito, scrambling around after Felix. Hey, I got short legs. When we arrived at Snaggletooth Rock, Felix decided to send Hank and Willow back to camp to search for enough snacks for all of the cousins, while the rest of us set things up for the night. Floppy Joe and Tito were both still young pups, but Felix felt like they needed to pitch in and do some of the work of setting up camp. So they got busy as little beavers, dragging sticks to the circle of rocks for the campfire. Coco and I discovered a few rabbits had burrowed under the rock on one side, and that could be a small problem. I figured they'd be difficult to scare away. Since they like to make tunnels where they can hide, Mama told me that as many as 30 rabbits can live in those underground tunnels. Those suckers can burrow 10 feet underground, and their tunnels open up into a space almost 100 feet wide. Geez, an underground rabbit room? Things were about to get really interesting since I did not plan to share my camp out with rabbits. Coco and I decided to see what we could do to run those rabbits out of there. Maybe they haven't dug the entire tunnel yet, Coco suggested. Either way, let's go chase us some rabbits. I replied, and the race was on to see who could round up the most bunnies. It was getting late, and Hank and Willow still hadn't returned with food. So Felix went back to camp to check on them when he met them on the trail. They had gathered tons of food and were having a difficult time dragging all of it back to the camp. Oh, mate, they got a lot this time. Nothing better than a big campfire and lots of scraps. Right, Bear? I said when Felix, Hank, and Willow arrived. Coco and I had returned to the campfire rink to help start the fire. About the time I said the word scraps, Texas Tito and Floppy Joe, who had been racing around chasing each other, came to a screeching halt. Tito said, "Scraps? What do you mean by that? Yuck." Floppy Joe quickly agreed with his new BFF. It was the Fab 14 attitude all over again. But I hadn't expected my own cousins not to know the deliciousness of scraps. It's all the uneaten food the kids rake into the garbage off their dinner plates, I explained. It's amazing. It's all the uneaten food the kids rake into the garbage off their dinner plates, I explained. It's amazing. Tito started shaking his head. Oh no, he said. I'm on a strict diet. I can only eat certain things. In fact, I'm gluten intolerant and cannot eat anything with meat. I'm sort of a vegetarian, I guess you could say. My mom buys me this special dog food. Floppy Joe interrupted and gave a big toothy grin. I can eat everything, he said. In fact, I once ate a couch pillow, not much of a taste, but it sure was fun. Just like the Fab 14, poor Tito was about to find out how dogs really live at Camp Meatloaf. That's what makes camp so much fun. We get to be real dogs for a while. Just then, Felix gave a loud woof for all the pups to circle about the campfire that was really burning great by now. Time for child pups, I hollered. Thanks to Hank and Willow, we all had a feast. I think we have time for one story, Felix. What you think? Luke asked after dinner. I was looking forward to scaring Tito and Floppy Joe. Certainly we do, Fee replied. And when he said something unexpected, Dallas, would you like to do us the honor tonight? Never one to back down. I was thrilled with this invitation. Of course, I would love to, I replied. I launched into the story about being lost up on the mountain when the hogs were about to eat us alive. Honestly, I thought Tito might faint from fright, but it turned out that he had gobbled up so many pizza bones that he began to puke. Oh, great, I said to the group. Who's going to clean that up? We'll worry about it in the morning, I guess. I just hope the rats don't come out after we put the fire out. Rats? Floppy. Rats? Floppy cried. Floppy Joe cried. Nobody said nothing about rats. Mama? Lights out, guys. I warned before it all got out of hand. It had been a long day. The campfire had burned down to just a few Amber's, all the pups settled in for the night, and Tito nervously asked Floppy Joe if he could please bunk up with him. Floppy Joe was actually glad to have someone close by. All this talk of rats, hogs, and rabbits, although the rabbits didn't sound too bad, had made Flop anxious. Floppy had heard all the fun stuff that happens at camp, like eating s'mores, peanut butter, and pig ears. He wasn't prepared for an actual encounter with a wild hog, or certainly not a rat. EGADS. What is EGADS?
Oh my goodness. EGADS is kind of like, oh my.
Oh, okay. Never heard that word.
Oh, okay.
I'll put it in my
Repertoire.
word box to use later.
Okay.
As Flop was saying his prayers, Tito whispered, "Can you say a few prayers for me too, Floppy?" Flop was happy to include Tito. It was always a privilege to pray for friends, and tomorrow, two of our friends would need some big time prayers. Oh my goodness. The next one is rabbits, rats, and critters. Gail, would you do the honors?
Sure. A new day brought sunlight and the promise of great things ahead. Lacey the cat joined us in the morning, although she preferred to do her own thing in camp each day, and so did Myrtle, King, and Foxy. Tito was the first one awake and got busy nudging all the others to get going. Tito ran to Felix next, full of questions. Felix, what time is it? Where are we going today? What's for breakfast? Just then, three tiny rabbits went racing between Felix and Tito, headed for the tunnels. Tito gave chase and almost caught one before they disappeared into their burrow. Those tiny rabbits will box your ears and may even bite you, Felix warned, knowing that adult rabbits can be very mean when protecting their babies. Geez, Tito complained. I thought they were just little Easter bunnies out here. Felix rolled his eyes and told Tito to call all the pups together so they could get the day started. With all the pups assembled, Felix laid out the plan for the day. Thank goodness there was enough leftover pizza bones for all the pups to have breakfast. We might have had rat meatloaf or sandwiches, I began to explain to Tito and Floppy Joe, but since Lacey the cat doesn't like rats, I cut my eyes over at her. Well, we don't exactly have a good rat catcher. Tito was looking green at the mention of rat meatloaf. Just in case anyone got hungry again, I made certain to pack lots of pig ears in my backpack so we could munch on those along the way today. The campers were riding a bus over to nearby Indian Springs, so Felix thought it would be a perfect day to swim and jump on the world-famous blob. I couldn't wait to see the new pup's reaction to that huge rubber blow-up thing. We planned to send Tito and Floppy Joe up the ladder first, since they'd never seen the blob and didn't know how it worked. At the top of the ladder, I urged Tito to jump out onto the blob and promised that I would jump after him. Since we were both small, we waited for Bear to plunge his big old self onto the blob next. When he landed, he sent us flying. Poor Tito went so high, I thought he'd never come back down before he finally landed in the water. Let's try that again, Tito cried as we swam ashore. He loved it. Next up on the blob was Floppy Joe, followed by Felix, who sent Flop flying. It's kind of hard to say who sent Flop flying. Floppy Joe, Floppy Joe is virtually a water bug, so he wanted to play in Ink's Lake all day. We even took out a couple of the dog paddle canoes and tootled around in those for a while. The lake was rarely empty of kids for hours at a time, but this was our chance. Eventually, I started looking for Willow and Hank and wondering where they had ventured off to. After searching everywhere, I saw them climbing the stairs to a tall tower where the kids swing out on a rope over the water before letting go and diving straight down. I should have known those climbing dogs would find the big tower. Merciful sakes alive, how in the world will we get them back down? They could not rappel down, and it was too high for them to jump. So I thought it best to send both Felix and Bear to guide them down step by step. Bear led the way, but it took them a while to climb the tower. Hank and Willow were paralyzed by fear on top of the sky-high platform. Every time they looked down, they grew more terrified. and so did I. Willow was so nervous that she just wanted to jump and get it over with. But Hank, Bear, and Felix stood in front of her so she wouldn't try it. Willow, Bear explained calmly, I will slowly start down the stairs and then you follow me. Hank would follow next, and Felix would be at the back of their slow procession down the stairs. When they finally got to the bottom of the tower, poor Willow was literally sick to her stomach. She felt terrible that she had caused so much commotion and trouble. We have all made mistakes, Felix said to comfort her. The best thing we can do is learn from them and try to make good choices next time. At camp, everybody is somebody, and we all take care of one another. But remember to think before you act. What looks like fun might actually be very dangerous. That tower is for kids, not dogs. After this quick pep talk, Bear sent them off to join the other pups who were still enjoying all the water activity. It was hot and water was the place to be. Thankfully, all my cousins are good swimmers. Afterwards, we found a shady place to lie down for naps. Dogs like to sleep a lot. I thought it was our morning I thought it was all our snoring rattling the leaves in the trees, but then I realized it was just cicadas making that noise. Cicadas are like, we always called them locusts when I was a child growing up, and they make a lot of noise in the summertime. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
like Nothing like a summer day when all is quiet and you're just listening to all the sounds nature provides. It was like music to my ears, but something was about to happen on the way home that would upend everything. It had been a busy day already, and we took one more swim across the lake, much further than we'd swam before. We needed to we needed to find our way back to camp before dark because we didn't know the way home from there, and we had no more food with us either.
I'm sorry. That's my sister that was calling. I'm so sorry.
No,
She's
no, that's
um she's is blind and I couldn't text her, so I was trying to couldn't answer, so I had to,
oh,
yeah, let her know that I was reading.
oh,
So chapter 25. But before we go on, we only have two chapters left, Gail. Do you want to
yeah,
finish those tonight? It's 8 o'clock.
okay, we can. If
Okay.
everybody's game for that, we could do it.
Yeah, we normally Stacy. Here's Stacy.
Morning,
They're
Stacy.
coming in. I know that Pop normally 8 o'clock. He kind of puts the kids down, and so let's go
I
ahead and read him because
yeah,
he comes. Oh,
I don't
they're
think
still
it
catching up. You're not behind. We didn't Stacy, we didn't read last time. So if you saw the last one, you're good, but it's behind, so she'll have to start over. So start from the beginning of this feed. Well, let's do chapter 25. I know Pop always has his kids to come back and look at it. Floppy Joe and Tito get lost. Felix decided we should follow a trail along the water's edge. Come on, pups, let's hit the trail. He replied confidently and led the way. But I was not feeling so optimistic. I took up the rear position with Bear because I wanted to be able to keep an eye on Tito and Floppy Joe. I didn't want them wandering off since it was getting late in the day. Young pups can get distracted very easily, much like little children. Since there were more of us now, it was a lot to manage the gang and keep together. After walking some time, we didn't seem any closer to the camp. That was a bit worrisome, as I certainly didn't want to spend another night in the open woods. I didn't see much ahead that looked familiar, so I signaled to Felix for our group to circle up and consider our position. When we were all huddled in a group, I noticed Tito and Floppy Joe were nowhere to be seen. How in the world could they already be missing? My greatest nightmare had happened right before my eyes. Weren't you looking out for them, Bear? Dallas? Coco asked. They were right in front of me the last time I checked, but now they're gone. I cried. In unison, we started howling our emergency howl in hopes the two lost dogs could hear it and come running. Nothing. It was late. Oh, no, lost. It was late in the summer, and the sun set earlier than usual. Soon it was completely dark. We couldn't go on because we could hardly see anything before us. And if Tito and Floppy Joe were lost nearby, We didn't want to leave the area. Felix and I decided there was nothing to do but stop and make camp. Felix Bear, Coco, Willow, Hank, Luke, and I would have to make the best of a horrible situation. No food, no way to start a campfire, and two of our youngest pups lost. We continued to howl every now and again to see if they would hear and find us. Poor Tito and Floppy Joe, I thought to myself. I'm sure they're scared out of their minds. I confess my fear to Bear. They must have scampered off chasing an animal when I wasn't paying close enough attention, I said. I felt so responsible for them getting lost. I won't sleep a wink tonight worrying about those two. Bear did his best to comfort me, but I felt awful. When we were safe back at Camp Beatlow, it was pretty cool to hear all the night sounds each evening, but now it was scary. The crickets started first and grew louder and louder. What did you call these? Cicadas?
Circadas.
Cicadas. Every time I see that word, I want to pronounce it a different way. I joined in next and almost drowned out the sound of the crickets. And a bit, the hoot owl started. First one owl, then another owl, as if they were talking to each other. And maybe they were. I wondered if those owls were discussing two lost dogs in the woods. Did they know where they were? As it approached midnight, I heard something unexpected, a mountain cat screaming in the distance. Geez, Willow, said under her breath. Those things sound just like a woman screaming sometimes. It was really, really spooky. I didn't like being lost in the woods at night, so I started talking to God and praying big prayers to our lost pups. How do you talk to God? Coco whispered when she overheard me praying. Talking to God is just like talking to your parents, I whispered back. You just say everything that's in your heart and mind. Just let it all spill out like this. Dear God, please keep us safe out in these woods tonight and keep Tito and Floppy Joe safe and help us find them in the morning. Oh dear, was that a coyote I just heard? Surely we're not back in their territory. It's going to be a long night with lots of prayers offered up to God. Suddenly, several more coyotes began howling. All the pups drew closer and closer together in a tight circle. I worried the most about Tito. Floppy Joe has long legs and can barely run fast, but Tito already had a hard time keeping up earlier today. Things were looking bad, so I told everyone in our group to pray out loud, one by one. They asked God to protect Tito and Floppy Joe and all of us. I closed our prayers by saying, God, please watch over and protect Floppy Joe and Tito. Hide them in the darkness of your woods until morning and help us to find them at first light. The hours crept by. We heard more and more noises in the woods. Mom always said that night is when many animals come out looking for food, like armadillos and possum. She was right. They make a lot of noise trumpeting through the leaves. I didn't want to think about it, but I knew from Mama that the wild hogs also come out in the cool night air. Wild hogs also come out in the cool night air. If you don't bother them, Dallas, they might be harmless, she told me 100 times, but they can be pretty mean at times. I sure didn't want to run for our lives again from a big team of hogs. We lay still for hours waiting for the minutes to tick off the clock until daylight, passing the time by trying to guess what animals were in those dark woods surrounding us. We prayed it was only harmless to armadillos scratching for insects to eat. But every sound of a limb breaking gave us cause to think the worst. What's that I hear in the distance? I asked when a new sound startled me. The wind was blowing hard. Was that thunder? Great, as if things couldn't get any worse. We're about to have a big summer thunderstorm. Mercy. I remember seeing a few large rocks where we had settled in for the night, so I told the others we had better seek protection from falling tree limbs that could come crashing down on us. Please, Lord, let this night end soon. I am terrified. I pray with all my might. This chapter should have been called Finding Jesus in God. A lot of praying.
Yes.
All right. You close out that last chapter, Gayle. It's only fitting that you end it.
All right. Cross Mountain. The morning sun finally broke over the ridge. After a terrific thunderstorm last night, I was so thankful we were all alive. God sure answered our prayers to keep us safe. Now, if we could just find Tito and Floppy Joe. Dear God, I heard someone behind me praying. It was Coco. Please, please help us to find our cousins. I was so proud. We decided to split up into pairs to look for Floppy Joe and Tito now that it was light. We made plans to meet back when the sun was higher in the sky. So off we went in three different directions, searching and howling to let them know we were looking for them. There simply was no trace of those two. Where in the world could they be? After looking until our eyes were just about worn out, we all ended up back where we had survived the night beside the rocks. Suddenly, I had a thought. While scouting for sticks at the campfire the other night, Tito and Floppy Joe had told us they had seen a plateau high up on the side of a mountain with a large rock and a beautiful cross. We knew they were talking about Cross Mountain. What if they'd gone there? I talked to Bear and Felix about my theory. Cross Mountain was just about a half mile up from us, so Bear said all of us should go there together. Halfway there, Bear looked and saw the most beautiful sight ever. On top of the mountain was a gorgeous cross. Wait, wait, wait! I cried as I looked at Cross Mountain. I see two pups sitting there next to the cross. Please, Lord, could it be our cousins? We all took off running up the side of that mountain as fast as our legs would take us. When they saw us coming, Floppy Joe and Tito ran to meet us. Oh my goodness, how in the world did they find their way up there in the dark? After all, we had a big reunion. After we all had a big reunion, I asked Tito and Floppy Joe how they could have possibly ended up on this mountain. Floppy Joe said, simple. We prayed and asked God to rescue us. Then I just started walking and told Tito to follow me. Even though they were totally lost, they had remembered seeing the cross. Soon they were climbing up a hillside and realized they had found Cross Mountain. I knew that every Sunday night, all the kids from the camp next door hike up Cross Mountain to have a special time of quiet reflection with their friends and thank God for all their blessings. That gave me an idea. I turned to my cousins and said, Pups, I'm hesitating because my little dog is still ill and she's kind of
Oh,
having some trouble breathing right now.
I hear her. Is that her that I hear?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Do you want me to read so you can tend to her?
There's nothing I can do. I just have to wait for her to get done.
Okay.
Let me go look at her real quick. Hold on.
So Dallas isn't feeling well, guys. It's been she's been dealing with something respiratory, and so she's having trouble breathing. So she's um, helping him the best that she could, helping her the best that she could. But I'll read while she's back there. Um, that gave me an idea. I turned to my cousins and said, Pups, I think we all need to spend some time here because we have so much to be thankful for. Let's pray. They all agreed. I'll go first, I said. God, thank you for saving my cousins, Floppy Joe and Tito. Are you ready to jump in?
Yep. And thank
Okay.
you for all my other cousins. Thank you for this wonderful, beautiful place where so many have gone before us and worshiped you. Thank you that you still hear us and still answer our prayers. Mom and Dad were right all along. When we are in the great outdoors, good things happen. When it was the last day of camp, I wrote something in my pup journal before I went to sleep. I don't think it's half bad if I do say so myself. Here goes. This summer at Camp Meatloaf will be one I remember forever. Camp is a place where we can all relax, be ourselves, and have fun. We have learned so much from each other. Sure, problems arise that need to be solved, and we have to depend on each other to figure them out. Our pack is all we have when we're at camp, and so we have to build our faith and trust in each other. We left behind all the comforts of our homes to experience life as we've never known it before, and boy, did we do that. Now I know how much we need each other. Over the summer, we learned that every pup has certain skills to help with whatever problem we were facing at the moment. Teamwork, trust, faith, and the ability to not think too highly of ourselves. That's what I will remember forever. That and rat meatloaf.
I absolutely love this book. It had so many lessons. I think more lessons for humans than dogs. And I love the way it ended, that they found them right by the cross. I think that is the best.
Well, actually, there is an actual place called Church Mountain out at Camp Longhorn. And that's where I borrowed that from. It's next door to where the kids were. That's where the kids were camping. And the kids do go up every Sunday night and they do just what I said. They have a time of quiet reflection. And they've been doing that for years and years and years out at this camp. And so it's a very special place. And as I looked, I found a picture of those kids. They all had on their white T-shirts. They all cleaned up, and they go up about a half mile up this little mountainside, and there's that big rock and a big cross, and they spend times of quiet reflection and thanking God for, or however they want to spend their time. You know, I'm sure there's some that are not believers or maybe know how to pray or what those things, but they can spend their time on reflection of however they'd like to do that. So
I absolutely love that. It makes me think of in Eureka Springs, there's it used to be the Passion. They would have it. It's the Passion, and Melvin and I went to see it. But last time we were there, he actually had we actually went up to take pictures by the cross and read the history. So that's pretty awesome. And Stacy left a rather long comment. She said, "Love it. Cameron reading teacher is going to let him do his book report on your book, Gayle."
oh
He
my
was so
goodness.
excited. We're catching
That
up. He had winter break and went out of town. We are on chapter 19, but we'll finish before the weekend. We have loved this so much. Belinda, we will start tuning in more, I promise. Thank you, Stacy. Love you both. I love the ending. It is a great book. I listened and wanted to be here tonight, but we are going to catch up. Prayers for Dallas.
yes, she's had a time. They've called it pre-pneumonia, and so she's been on antibiotics, and she felt better this afternoon. Now she hasn't done this all day. This is the first time she's had an episode of that breathing business tonight. So hopefully she won't have any more. So
Yeah,
it's
prayerfully
been
she doesn't. Stacy's
yeah,
laughing because I said rather long, but we love those posts. It took time for you to write that, Stacy, and we appreciate it. Well,
yes,
it kind of feels like we've been having a little reunion every Tuesday. So I have to tell you my most favorite part. I thought it was in the beginning. It has to be when Miss Poodle Puff, when she realized she might be in love with Hank.
yeah, yeah.
That's my favorite part. I'm a sucker for love stories.
Yep,
And this book is so well written. I tell you this every Tuesday. So well written. And thank you, Stacy, for allowing him to do his book. I think he chose the best book. He won't have anybody else that has his book. So
that's right.
what state, where are you located again, Stacy? So we can know where her book is going to start
She's here in
getting her
Beaumont.
roots, I guess. I don't think
Stacy's in Beaumont.
Stacy's in Beaumont.
Yes,
Okay. Okay, Stacy. Okay. I'm thinking that Stacy was the lady I met for TEPSA, but Stacy does tune in quite a bit.
yes.
She's Sour Lake.
Sour Lake. I didn't realize that, Stacy. Okay.
Sour Lake. It's fine. You did better than me. Sour Lake. So that
And
is so awesome.
there's actually a few copies of the book at Sour Lake Elementary. A friend of mine donated some to the Sour Lake Elementary out there. So,
Oh, moved 3 years ago. Well, she said they're already in the library, and he gets to hear from the author, so he really has a special book report.
if he needs
So,
me at book report time, I'll go out with him.
oh, look at that, Stacy! How awesome is that? I'm a
That'd
little
be fun.
jealous.
If
I
he
know
wants to
that.
do a live presentation of his book report, well, I'll go and be at the class.
Oh my God! I love that.
That'd
How
be fun.
exciting! That's so
No,
exciting.
no extra credit though, because that wouldn't be fair to the other kids, but it would be fun.
Oh goodness. So she said that is great. So I'm sure Gail will connect with you for that date and let us know how it goes, Stacy. So what is your biggest takeaway from your book? The entire book.
Me, me.
Yes.
Um, the thing I'm writing in those books is I present those to children. I have one little statement I put in the front, and it's this: always do the right thing, because that's a statement I told my own grandchildren many times as they were growing up. And I think that's a real simple statement, but it carries a lot of weight if someone will think about that. Because we're all faced with situations every day, whether to do the right thing or not do the right thing, because a lot of times it's easier not to do the right thing. But when you always do the right thing, you don't have to look over your shoulder. You don't have to look back. You don't have to worry, because you know if you've done the right thing, it's best. It will go, things will go better for you. So I think that's one of the big things that I want children to take away, and that's what I write in the book when I'm presenting it to someone, is that very simple statement. It's
You
one
know,
I've told.
as an
Huh?
adult, as an adult, it's still a really good lesson. We need that
Yeah,
reminder.
yeah. Because we're tempted every day not to do the right thing. We're tempted to, oh well, don't do this because it won't hurt. Just go ahead but my mother taught me that. And she taught me a lot of really strong principles, values, morals, and ethics. And I'll be eternally grateful for that. And I taught that really strongly to my own kids. Were they perfect? No, I wasn't perfect. They're not. Their kids won't be. But if you try to instill those principles and values in your children, um, then they're going to teach it to their children. And I have seen my youngest grandchild now is 17. And I'm very proud to say I have 6 wonderful grandchildren. They're not perfect. My kids weren't perfect, but they're doing, for the most part, they're doing the right thing, and they're following the right path. And I think as a parent, that's your biggest goal, is to get those kids on proper footing. And it's hard. A friend of mine not long ago said that someone mentioned to her, she said, well, you're so lucky with your kids. And she stopped the lady in her tracks. She said, no, I'm not lucky. She said, it was hard work. And I said, I'm going to start saying that, because she was right. It is. It's very hard work to raise children to do the right thing, because they're they're pulled in every direction every minute of every day to not do the right thing sometimes. And so, and your children naturally want to go along the way of the world, and they want to do everything everybody else is doing. But if it's not God's best, you have to intercede and you have to say no. And that's hard. It's hard work.
Mhm. It
So
really is.
it's really hard work. It sounds simple, but it's not. It's just it's a it's a consistent, um, do the same thing every time situation that you have to employ when you're a parent, because you're that child's best cheerleader and supporter. Because if you're not watching out for them, not nobody else is really going to be doing that. So it's up to you as a parent. That's, if you decide to have children, it's a serious commitment, and you should take it seriously. And love is the biggest thing you can do. You have to love them above all else, but you can't be their buddy. You have to be the one that teaches them uh, the hard lessons in life. And because you're not going to always be here. And so you have to get that child on good footing, so they can be successful and thrive after you're gone. So,
And that is a great life lesson.
mhm.
Great life lesson for adults and children alike. Well, my next question and my last question, will there be any more books about Dallas or any books from you, Gail?
You know, there is another book out there. I don't know if I'll publish it. It's totally unrelated to Dallas Tales. It's sort of a food memoir. It's how my life has always revolved around food. Uh, the editor that did this book has it, and she's encouraged me to proceed. But it's going to depend on how well this one does, and uh, it all costs money, you know. So I've got to pay for this one first, and perhaps, and then she's encouraged me to write another follow up book for the Dallas
Mhm.
stories. So, and I have about 25 other stories I've written about her. They're just random experiences that she's had. Um, and so we'll see if that materializes or not. I'm not real sure. And again, it's going to depend on how well this one does, and to see, without a platform, it's very difficult to promote a book. You almost have to know somebody, or so I'm pursuing that. I'm looking for some influencers, people like you. I mean, you're a huge influencer, and I'm looking for others that perhaps could get this book where it could be seen by children. I think there's some great lessons for children in there. And I think that children could benefit from reading it, and even grown-ups. I've heard several grown-ups even say that, there's a lot of life lessons even for grown-ups to be found in the book. So um, I think children need all the positive influences they can get these days. And I'm not saying this is the end all be all book, but I think it could be a tool to help children to uh, understand the value of doing the right thing, working together, loving one another. Don't be critical of other people just because they make a mistake. We all make mistakes. And if you haven't made one today, you will probably tomorrow. So,
Mhm. Or before we go to bed.
yes, that's true. So, uh, we just need to be more tolerant of others, and help them instead of being critical. Just to because a lot of times people just need a friend. They need someone that cares, that someone to listen to them, or just whatever it might be. I mean, we've all found ourselves in those spots. So I think children are no different. And I think they will see that in this book, that they will see how these, even though these are pups, they see the lessons learned by working together.
And we got a note from, she said, I had to buy our family a book. He would have loved for you to come to school. That would be special and have to get you to sign. Cameron loved Hank and all his silliness. Yes, yes, so true. Right on, Miss Gail. And your family does exactly that. You taught them well. Yes, please write another. Yes. Can you put your book in Scholastic at the book fairs? So we talked about that with Scholastic, and this is definitely a book that would be. I have a Scholastic guy I'm going to put you in touch with,
Okay,
and I just
good.
messaged this other guy with podcasts that debuts like stellar authors, and I sent your information to him as well.
Oh,
So
great. Thank you.
we'll
Thank
get that to you. Gail, keep writing. I would love to have another generation go to Camp Meatloaf, Puff Poodle, and Hank's Pups, probably, and them to see it with their parents who have went before them, maybe from the eyes of their parents, and how they encounter things that their parents didn't have to encounter because of the timing, but maybe
Uh-huh.
they have, you know, things that were invented later that makes their stay a little bit easier, scarier, or maybe, vending machine for dogs. Maybe, I don't know. But I do think there needs to be a continuation. I vote for yes.
Oh, well, I have to tell you a cute story about Stacy. She
Okay.
sent me a picture of her son reading the book, and
Oh,
he's laying in his bed with his dog under his arm, and it was the cutest picture I've ever seen. It was the epitome of what I would love to see every child reading my book, and he told his little dog, "I'm sending you to Camp Meatloaf."
Oh,
Is that the cutest thing ever, Stacy? I loved that. So
we love you too. And she said you can share it.
I
So
will.
share
Yeah.
that. I'd like to see that.
Well, it's cute, cute, cute. And but you know, I think as children, and about the rat meatloaf, you asked for the recipe. It's actually just a meatloaf recipe that I used, and I actually made one when I was going to be on Channel 6 one day. And all I did was I just farmed the meatloaf to look like a rat. It was ugly. It was really ugly. And I used a green onion for the tail, onions for the claws, and I put rosemary for the whiskers, and I think I used olives for the eyes. I cut them and put the olives for the eyes, with the pimentos for the eyeballs,
Mhm.
and then a pimento for the nose. So I had a friend in Alaska that was visiting her grandchildren over Christmas, and they made a rat meatloaf up there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they made the rat meatloaf and sent me the picture, and
That's awesome.
yeah, they were real into the book, and, in fact, one of the granddaughters asked that was she was I think she's 11, wanted to know, could they make the rat meatloaf, and she said, "Well, of course." She said, "They don't even like meatloaf." I said, "Well," but they were making rat meatloaf. So, I think that was such a great, and Stacy, that was Gigi Fontenot, by the way, she knows my friend, and, we all went to church together once upon a time, and so I think that again is an indicator of the interest that can be found in the book, because if a child is wanting to do that, and take forward things that they're reading, I thought that was a very good indicator that, because this child has been a reader since day one, and
Oh,
she's a
wow.
voracious reader. So uh, I gauged that, because of that response, that was a great indicator.
Well, Gail, I hate to say this is the end of Dallas Tales,
I
but there
know.
is, we'll be praying for Dallas and all her friends in the book, and praying that that pre-pneumonia leaves her little system. She's been dealing with respiratory things for a while now.
It's been almost a month,
Yeah, I
and
remember when I
she was
came
sick.
over.
That night you came over, and she's on her second antibiotic and about to go on her third on Thursday.
Oh, wow.
So, but her appetite was better this afternoon, and I cooked her a little chicken breast and fed her some broth, and nothing in it, just water and chicken. And she ate it like a hound dog. So,
Oh, good.
oh, I thought that was a great indicator. So she's eating
That
a lot.
is.
So I'm just praying that she's turning a corner, hopefully, because I'm ready for her to be well.
Yes, ready for her to be playful.
Yes, and she's trying to play, and when she starts coughing. So it's so sad. So I'm ready for her to. Y'all all pray. Everybody's listening. You need to say prayers for Dallas tonight, and I'd be ever so
Definitely,
grateful.
definitely will. Well,
Okay.
guys, Tucked in Tuesday, Dallas Tell series is over. Guys, remember, if nobody else tells you, Dr. George loves you. And I want you to have a great evening, week, month, year, life on purpose. And Stacy says, love you both, and we'll be in touch. Keep us posted about Dallas. And you have any
Okay.
parting words, Gail?
Well, I just want to thank you tremendously for giving up your Tuesdays to read my book. I mean, that was just the most unbelievable gift that I could have received from anybody, and I do appreciate it greatly.
Well, it was a great and easy book to read. Love
Good,
it. So
good.
go on Amazon. If you're listening, leave her a review on Amazon.
Good.
Purchase the book. Even if you didn't purchase it, but you heard it, please leave her a review to bump her book up on the list. All righty, Gail. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.